Hi, Dave Roscoe here. It is Friday, October 24th, 2025, and we've got quite a bit to talk about today. I was not able to put out a show the last couple of days because of work obligations, so I do apologize about that. But I did not want to leave you all going into the weekend without a last update of the week, because as you know, I don't put out updates over the weekend anymore. So I did want to touch base with you guys and tell you what's going on. There's a new blog post by the PyCore team that I think will interest a lot of people. And I also want to address the social media buzz about the PyCore team selling Pi. There's also a Yahoo Finance article which talks about the outflow of Pi from the centralized exchanges, which has helped stabilize the Pi price. And I also have something from the rumor mill that I want to talk about. But first, the metrics. The circulating supply is 8.28 billion Pi. And there were 6,636 user accounts migrated in the last 24 hours and totaling 1.3 million Pi. Again, migrations have been happening every day, but small amounts, in the roughly 6,000 range and roughly totaling 1.3 to 1.5 million Pi. Nothing really to speak about other than the fact that it's been pretty steady for quite a while now. There's currently 25.4 million Pi in the Pi migration wallet, and migrations are happening now. The migrated unlocked rewards are at 3.2 billion Pi, with 7.2 million Pi unlocked in the last now almost 72 hours, and free to be traded on the open markets. This new blog post by the PyCore team is welcome news to at least 3.36 million people. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them, but what it says is that system process checks allow over 3.36 million tentatively KYC'd pioneers to fully pass KYC. Now that's good news. I'm tentative, and I've been tentative now for I don't even know how long. But unfortunately, whatever they did not resolve my tentative status. I did go through my normal checklist and see if I could shake something loose, but so far no joy. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Over 3.36 million additional pioneers have fully passed KYC, following a recently released system process that conducts additional checks for tentative KYC cases and allowed over 4.76 million tentative KYC pioneers to become eligible for full KYC completion. This large-scale system process includes complex mechanisms using advanced AI models and analyzing large data sets from liveness checks and KYC application data. It is designed to analyze tentative KYC cases to verify both that each applicant is a real, living person and that their application passes the additional checks required to fully pass KYC. Together, these verifications prevent cheating accounts from passing KYC, help uphold Pi's policy of one account per person, and further protect the integrity of the network and fairness for honest, real pioneers. Now, I don't know about you, but I wonder what's going to happen. You see a lot of these images coming out of mostly Asia, where you'll see one person, standing besides 20 or more phones, all running Pi. And you have to wonder, is that one person creating all of these accounts? And if that's the case, how are they policing the one account, one person rule? I don't know, but it is something I've wondered about because if it was one of those phones was for each individual person, why didn't they have a whole group of people in the photo? It's one person with a whole bunch of phones around them. So I hope they got that straight because that would really stink. Out of the 3.36 million fully KYC'd pioneers, around 2.69 million have migrated to the mainnet blockchain. For those who have not yet migrated to the mainnet, please check if you've fully passed KYC and complete the mainnet checklist to migrate to mainnet. Now, this is what I don't get. So if they're saying that 3.36 million newly KYC'd members were previously tentative, meaning that they weren't pending, their KYC was tentative, and that's been resolved. And out of that, 2.6 million of them have migrated to the mainnet blockchain. This had to have happened a long time ago because the numbers don't add up. I just reported that yesterday, 6,600 people were migrated. So I don't know. I mean, are they talking about people who, like me, have already had a migration to mainnet and then became tentative? Because I imagine that's a lot of people. So I don't know. This wording is interesting because on the face of it, it doesn't make sense, and I would call bull. But if they mean that people like me who have had a migration and were reverted to tentative are now fully KYC'd again, then it makes more sense. I have to imagine that's what they meant, despite the confusing wording. Note that there are an additional 3 million pioneers with tentative KYC cases who can be unblocked by this new system process if they submit the required additional liveness checks in the app. If your KYC status is tentative and the app requires you to conduct additional liveness checks, please complete the liveness checks as soon as possible to become eligible for this system process to help your KYC application reach finality. In addition to completing required tasks or checklists, active mining and engagement in the Pi app may help trigger many of the underlying automatic system processes, including this recent release, thus potentially helping to speed up your KYC and migration processing. This progress addresses the need of pioneers with tentative KYC status and contributes further to Pi's secure, authentic, and inclusive network of real individuals, the foundation of Pi Network's Web3 ecosystem. It definitely addresses the needs of some, not all, obviously, because I'm still tentative, and you can see I'm a real person, see? Flesh and blood. I'm not AI. So something's broken here still if somebody like me, who puts out regular videos on the virtues of the Pi network, is tentative on their system. My wife, she's been in almost as long as me, and she's never been reverted to tentative. So I don't know. This article from Yahoo Finance says PiCoin recovers as 10 million tokens exit exchanges and KYC rollout boosts confidence. Now, this is a continuation of an earlier story where the number was around 3 million, but the outflow of Pi from the exchanges has continued, and that's a good thing. There has been a grassroots effort to try to get people to get their Pi off of exchanges, and it appears to be helping. Now, when they say recover, that's a little iffy because it hasn't really recovered. It maybe stopped the bleeding because, let's face it, we still have millions of more Pi being unlocked every day. But still, kudos to people in the community taking action to help bolster their coin. So that's good. PiCoin has recorded a modest price increase over the past 24 hours as selling pressure continues to subside. Recent data indicates that nearly 10 million Pi were withdrawn from exchanges in October. The shift comes amid Pi Network's latest authentication update, a key milestone aimed at enhancing user verification and ecosystem security. The rollout appears to have strengthened community confidence, driving a notable outflow of tokens from the exchanges. Now, that connection I don't get, because what authentication updates are they talking about? Passkeys? That was a little while ago. And it doesn't really help that much if you think about it, because people's wallets are the weak point, and that's not protected by anything other than the passphrase. Yeah, so I don't get that. Be.in Crypto Markets data showed that over the past 24 hours, the mobile mined cryptocurrency has seen a 0.91% uptick in value at press time. It was trading at 20 cents, and it still is. While the broader trend for Pi still remains bearish, the latest uptick highlights that the altcoin is gaining modest momentum. But what's behind the rise? Well, PiScan data showed that over 2.6 million Pi coins have left exchanges just over the last 24 hours. Overall, in October, users withdrew nearly 10 million tokens from exchanges. As a result, centralized exchange supply dropped to 410 million, down from 420 million in September, according to BN Crypto's September analysis. When coins move off exchanges, it generally means holders don't intend to sell soon. Traders and investors usually withdraw to hold long term, indicating rising confidence in the asset's future price. The change in sentiment is not without reason. It comes amid a resolution of verification challenges leading to renewed optimism. Now that is recent, and maybe that's what they're talking about with that authentication thing, because that was just announced today. KYC breakthrough boosts confidence in the Pi network. Well, there you go. After repeated complaints from users, as you can tell, I'm reading these at the same time as you guys. I took a brief look at them just to see what the gist of the article was, but I didn't read it in any detail. So this is as new to me as it is to you. After repeated complaints from users, Pi Network took a major step forward in its compliance infrastructure. The project launched a new automated system process designed to review and finalize tentative Know Your Customer or KYC cases. In its latest blog post, the team announced that the rollout led to the full verification of over 3.36 million additional pioneers. Out of the newly verified accounts, around 2.69 million pioneers have already migrated to the Pi mainnet blockchain. Okay, so I think that this pretty much settles my dilemma. It has to be people who've at one point passed KYC, had a migration, and then were reverted to tentative. And this is interesting because 3.36 million and then 2.6 million of them had already been migrated. That means that most of the problems with KYC happened with people who already had passed KYC initially, had a migration, and then were reverted for some reason. I mean, because only less than 0.6 million. So like, in other words, less than 600,000 out of this whole number were not people who fell into that category. So that's interesting. I wanted to give you a quick update on Alpha Arena by N of 1. And as you can see, quite a lot has changed. Initially, Grok was up there with DeepSeek at the top of the leaderboard, trading at around, at one point, almost $16,000. But as you can see, you've got GPT-5 and Gemini at near the bottom. They're not at zero yet. I had thought maybe they would be, but they appear to have gotten a lot more conservative as their cash balance has gone down. Grok took a big dip over here and has not recovered its swagger that it once had when it was up trading right around here, up there with DeepSeek. However, DeepSeek and Qwen 3 have recovered significantly, with Qwen 3 now in the lead with over $16.2 thousand. So that's really interesting. And the next thing I want to talk about is this buzz about the Pi network selling Pi. And I've taken a look at it, and it does appear that that is indeed the case. The Pi core team has sold Pi, and everyone's freaking out about it. And I don't know why. Some people will say that with the state of Pi the way it is, the Pi core team shouldn't be selling Pi. And to that, I would say, well, who are you to say? The tokenomics spell out exactly what the Pi core team is allowed to do. And I just want to show you this. This is from my Pi Network FAQ. Now, there's an undocumented section here called Important Pi Network Wallets. And the important part about this is that it shows the wallets that implement the tokenomics that are in the Pi Network white paper. Now, you can look at this on your own. I've done a pretty good job connecting the dots here. But the wallet in question originates in Pi Foundation 4. Now, if you didn't know this, there are about, I think, 10,000. Yeah, 10,000 wallets were created, and each wallet was funded with 2 million Pi. And that represents 20% of the total circulating supply. And that is allocated as compensation to the Pi core team. In other words, this is their salary. And they don't invest it right away. The vestiture of this fund is a proportion of the total migrated supply. And if you read the white paper, it tells you exactly how that works. So it's a percentage of the total circulating supply is allowed to be released to the Pi core team out of this wallet. And as I mentioned, there are about 10,000 wallets with 2 million Pi each. And if you can't possibly go through them all, but I can tell you that these were all created right when the program started. Now, one of these wallets had a transfer to another wallet, a Banksa wallet, and that Banksa wallet then transferred Pi to OKX. And we have to assume that's with the purpose of selling. Now, we don't actually see the purchase. I suppose if you really wanted to, you could see how that shook out, but the chances of all of that Pi going to one place is unlikely. All you'd see is a bunch of outflows from OKX to multiple different wallets, and it would be really hard to track down. You know, maybe you could write a script to do it, but I'm not going to because I'm not worried about it. So my point here is that the Pi core team did not do anything wrong. They did exactly what their white paper and what the tokenomics says they can do. Now, from what I can tell, they have not spent or sold a lot of Pi out of this wallet. So their compensation has not been utilized to any large extent up to this point. And you have people complaining that, oh yeah, they have to sell Pi because they have no other liquidity. And to that I say, well, maybe that's true, but maybe they're selling Pi because they can. There's a reason why they allocated 20% to themselves. That's got to be able to be tendered in any way they want, whether they want to hold on to it or they want to sell it. That's completely up to them. Would you want somebody telling you what you couldn't do with your own money? I don't think so. But for some reason, because it's the Pi core team, this is now a crime. So ignore the FUD. The Pi core team didn't do anything wrong. I'm not worried about what they did. In fact, I'm surprised they aren't doing it more. And who knows, maybe they will. But you know what? They're definitely earning their money. They've done a lot since Open Mainnet. The amount of achievements, the amount of progress that they've made is far greater than anything that came before. And people don't see that because it's not reflected in the price. And like I've said before, they're building the foundation. And people argue, well, they had 6 years to do that. No, they didn't. Until they went mainnet, they really couldn't do much of anything other than improve the blockchain and do some back end work. But to actually grow the ecosystem, they had to be outside of their firewall, and that's Open Mainnet. And that's when things can really take off, and they have been. And to me, it looks like the pace is accelerating. We're getting a faster cadence or higher cadence of Pi core team blog post releases. We're seeing more strategic partnerships. We're seeing more features rolling out. And this is all a good thing. And eventually, this is going to reflect in the price. And one final thing from the rumor mill. There's been reports of a Pi bridge that enables P2P lending and using Pi as collateral for other types of financial activities, and even the ability to lend Pi and earn interest. This is like I said, the rumor mill, there's no confirmations. The already announced features by the Pi Core team that they're planning on rolling out, the creation of tokens, the automated market makers, the DEXs, and I think I said the creation of tokens. They all allow that already. So I don't know what purpose doing this would have now. And it makes me a little skeptical that it could be a real thing, because I don't see how it would work. So be careful with anything related to a product called Pi Bridge. If it were me, I would stay far away from it and wait until the Pi Network's core offerings are released. So again, I just wanted to make you aware of it because it's on the rumor mill, and chances are someone in the comments will ask me about it. And I don't want people to think I'm not aware of some of these rumors. I just don't choose to give them a lot of attention. If anything breaks, I'll be sure to hop on and let you know. But until then, don't panic. Stay the course, and remember, the success of the Pi Network begins with you. Pi to the moon. Peace.